But it's funny. So we were just talking about obviously this, Ohtani and Mike Trout and Ellie Dela Cruz, like all these different people. But it's like there is that we should talk about it on like further at some point. But like that Damian Lillard, Mike Trout, like thing of like the players that stay on bad teams for too long, whether they buy into promises or just want to stay there, but then they end up, you hate to say wasting their career, but the reality is Mike Trout is doing stuff that, over the course of a career, we've almost never seen before. And it pretty much doesn't even matter. It's not that impactful when you're doing it on a constantly losing team. And, how long should Ohtani have to be there too?
Well, we're going to find out with Ohtani this offseason.
But imagine that one team has Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the same team, and you're terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit about what Ohtani's been doing, but it's just like we're talking about all-time great stuff happening.
Yeah.
Some of the craziest, most impressive baseball ever played, and you have two of them on the same team. I mean, what did the Phillies give up for why am I drawing a blank on his name? But you know who I'm talking about. Bryce Harper. Yep. You go back and you look at like what Washington had for a little while with that team with Bryce
Washington
Harper and Steven Strasburg and all the guys. Who was it? Was it Anthony Rizzo? I mean, they just had so many people on that team.
Yeah. Rendon, Anthony Rendon. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Rendon. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, and you let them go to sign Strasburg to this massive contract and probably never going to pitch again. I mean, and it's unfortunate for him, but
yeah,
like how you couldn't keep that team together. I don't know. I mean, the fans in Washington would have been there, but yeah, I mean, and that's not even like counting, Anthony Rendon being there and, all this. I mean, they got one World Series out of it. I suppose that's all they really wanted at that point. And now it looks like Washington's probably going to be selling the team. So they wanted to, I guess, tighten up the purse string, so to speak. And, but now they're, the players they had are the players you try to draft. Like those are the players you try to have in your system.
You already had it. Like you already had the best case scenario. For how your team could have gone.
Bryce Harper's a 2-time MVP. Juan Soto is probably going to get one at some point in his career. Trey Turner is top 3 shortstops. I know he's had some issues in Philly recently, but it's not like he's not going to turn it around, and he's already starting to turn it around. Like those are the players you dream to draft, and you drafted them all. Like it's not like you traded for them; you drafted all these guys. You had them, and then you let them go to what? Try and draft them again? I just, I don't get it, man.
The Oklahoma City Thunder, the Oklahoma City Thunder of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, well, that's the same way with the Pirates, though. And Pirates were the exact same way. I mean, they had Garrett Cole, just on and on and on and on and on, and you just it's just money, man.
Like Andrew McCutcheon. I mean, they had a ton of guys there for a period of time, but never.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sickening. Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, Shohei's going to be getting. I mean, that deal. I can't even. The deal is going to be so big that it's going to be like he could never live up to. Like, I just don't even think he could ever live up to.
No, it's like he's going to win 6 Cy Young awards, and it's going to be maybe not $1 billion, but gosh, it's got to be what, 600 million, something like that. I mean, it's going to be some absurd number.
Yes, I mean, and then you just hope with him doing all this stuff, he's not going to break down early. I mean, you're pitching every 5 days, and then you're hitting every day that you're not pitching. It's like, whew. Yeah. You got to think that's going to wear down, but I mean, someone's going to give him the money. I mean,
oh yeah, somebody. Yeah, I'll be curious to see where he ends up going. But well, why don't we do this? Let's get this thing started. We got a ton of stuff to cover. we're letting people see behind the curtain right now, but
Yeah.
we'll get this thing going for real and entertain our
it.
global audience a little bit. So I'll go ahead and count it down, and we'll get this rolling.
All right, let's go.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
That's right. That's right. Sorry, just looking at all the breaking news here. That's right. You get the Horn Show, Tad and Jeff here. Back again. And we got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to roll right into it. Good to see you, brother.
You too, man.
Ready to do this thing?
Yes, sir. Always.
We got we're going to have a global audience observing our every move. As they always do. And, to give you an idea, most recent reports that we have here are now that nearly 4% of our audience is based in Canada. So our brothers from the north,
well,
2% in the U. What's that?
Good and talk. That's Canadian, right?
Yeah, yes, Guten Tag to our friends in Canada.
Yep.
2% in the UK.
Yeah,
I think it's also Guten Tag. Australia, 1.7% in Australia and 1% in the Philippines. I won't go below 1%, but we got a whole bunch of them. So welcome to the global audience.
Welcome.
And to anyone who's just found us, welcome to the You Get the Horn Show. Tad and Jeff here as your hosts. We will do what we always do. We will talk about the news of the day. We will talk about the news that we think is interesting, funny stories, interesting things that we've seen or read. Nobody knows what we're going to say about this because we have not rehearsed any of this. This is non-scripted. We know what we're going to talk about roughly ahead of time, and then it just kind of goes where it goes. We don't know what each other's reactions will be or anything. So, top of the order, I think maybe we should talk about this whole Northwestern football thing. And this is not a sports show. Again, for people, we're going to be a little front-loaded with sports tonight. We've got a few things back to back. If you don't want to hear that, no problem. Skip ahead because there's going to be lots of non-sports stuff as well. But the beginning of the episode might be a little sports heavy tonight because we've got a lot of crazy breaking stories. And one of them is Northwestern football head coach Pat Fitzgerald, this hazing scandal that's been going on, and it's been all over the news here recently, and things have kind of taken a turn. So, Jeff, I know you saw some breaking news just as we were coming on here. There's been a lot of question about what was going to happen with this. So,
So, I mean, literally 10 minutes before we came on, news broke that they're at this point going to go ahead and fire Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald. It seems to, from what I can tell, and it's hard because obviously now everything is just breaking. So all we're hearing is fired. We're hearing reports he's fired, this and that. So we don't really have like the full details of what changed their mind. I don't think anything new has come out. I feel like it was probably more of the pushback that they got for suspending the guy for 2 weeks in the middle of summer when nothing was going on.
Yeah, let's give some people a little bit of background for those who don't know. Okay, so because again, we just talked about we have a global audience here. Not everyone's going to be familiar with this story or know a whole lot about it. So let's talk a little bit about it. So Northwestern University, Northwestern College football team, and so there were some things that came out about hazing among the team, and the players doing a bunch of hazing with freshmen and stuff, and some pretty terrible things, I think would be safe to say. And we'll get into some of those details. I know you have some of them. And the team kind of came out about it, and they looked and they said, well, head coach said he didn't know anything about it. So they said, okay, well, you probably should have. So we're going to go ahead and suspend you for 2 weeks. No idea, as you just alluded to, what they suspended him from because it's in the middle of the summer. There's absolutely nothing happening with football at that time. So it's kind of a strange scenario that they would think that they were suspending him from something. Maybe they just wouldn't let him park in his parking space or something for 2 weeks.
Right.
I guess suspended for 2 weeks. But then recently, a player at Northwestern came forward to the administration and said that actually head coach Pat Fitzgerald did know about this hazing did know about what was going on and gave further details. And then since then, there's been a lot of pressure on Northwestern to do something about this. So just wanted to kind of give a little background there before you kind of jump in on some of the specifics. So
Yeah, so some of the
Pat Fitzgerald
specifics.
now fired, officially fired minutes before we're on the show, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. So take it away from there.
Yeah, so this came from the dailynorthwestern.com, which from what little I know about Northwestern or their magazines or online news, it looks to be probably a school type related news, but there is a lot of stuff that took place. So this is a former player, wanted to remain nameless. So he alleges that the team's hazing centered around a practice called or dubbed running, and it's in quotation marks here, which was used to punish team members, primarily freshmen, for mistakes on the field and in practice. So if a player was selected for running, they would be restrained by a group of 8 to 10 upperclassmen dressed in various purge-like masks.
Purge-like meaning from the movie The Purge,
from
like very creepy-looking masks.
Yeah, and here's the thing: would then begin, and this is also in quotation marks. I'm not sure why it has to be in quotation marks, but it is begin dry humping the victim in a dark locker room. So,
okay.
It's a shocking experience as a freshman to see your fellow freshman teammates get ran, but then you see everybody bystanding in the locker room, the player said. It's just a really abrasive and barbaric culture that has permeated throughout that program for years on end. There's also the Daily obtained images of whiteboards labeled "Runs Giving," again in quotation mark, and quote Shrek's List, containing a list of names indicating players that needed to be quote ran. The player said the tradition, especially common during training camp and around Thanksgiving and Christmas, which he said the team called, again, a lot of quotation marks here, runs giving and runsmas. It's done under the smoke and mirror of, this is team bonding, but no, he claims that it's sexual abuse. According to this former team members allegedly identified players for running by clapping their hands above their heads around the player. The practice, the player said, was known within the team as the Shrek clap. I've seen Shrek. I don't remember anyone clapping around Shrek, but I don't know. It's been quite a while. So the Daily obtained a video of a player clapping his hands during a game. Just like, whoa. Okay, well, I mean, of course I would think so, but the anonymous player that said that motion, the same motion was taken to signify running. So he's claiming that whatever clapping was done during the game was the same motion taken to signify running. Now, according to the player, Fitzgerald repeatedly made the signal during practices when players, especially freshmen, made a mistake. So this is where they're saying he knew all along. The players believe, the player believes some players interpreted Fitzgerald making these signals as knowingly encouraging the hazing to continue. Everyone would just be looking at each other and be like, bro, Fitz knows about this, because you wouldn't take that action otherwise. Everyone joins in because he's the head coach. Now, there's a second player that they also spoke with who, again, wanted to remain anonymous, also witnessed the action being taken. So then, of course, NU hires an independent law firm, Arnett Fox Schiff, to investigate the claims. Lead investigator Maggie Hickey, she was a former inspector general of Illinois, interviewed, of course, coaches, staff, current, former players, reviewed thousands of documents. And then, according to the release, Hickey's investigation revealed that while former and current players varied on their perspective regarding the conduct, the whistleblower's claims were, quote, largely supported by evidence. So participation participation in or knowledge of these hazing activities, which were not detailed in the summary, was widespread across NU football players. the investigation found. So now the university spokesman, John Yates, declined to comment on the specific details of the allegation, but goes on to say, our first priority is to support and protect our students, including student athletes who had the courage to come forward in this independent investigation. That is why the university immediately opened up the investigation upon learning of the allegations, and we took decisive action once we ascertained the facts. And then he goes on to say, of course, then they talk about putting him on, Fitzgerald on unpaid suspension for 2 weeks in the middle of the summer. And then, of course, he comes out, Fitzgerald's like, I'm disappointed. I didn't know anything about this. And then this is where the university president comes in, Michael Schill, that he believes he, quote, may have erred in weighing the appropriate sanction for Coach Fitzgerald. So
Maybe.
Yeah, so you've already now given him the suspension, and now it's like, we may have messed up. We gave the guy a 2-week vacation in the middle of summer. So now they go back in here. Now they're going to go and, obviously now they're going to take and fire the guy. So in addition to, this is kind of getting back into this, in addition to running, the whistleblower alleged that he witnessed the team participate in other hazing traditions in which freshmen were forced to strip naked and perform various acts, include bear crawling and slingshotting them across the floor with exercise bands. So they had to bear crawl and then slingshot themselves across the floor with exercise bands.
How does this make you feel closer to your teammates?
I have no idea.
Like, how is it like, okay, freshmen, you need to be cool with us. You need to show you're part of the team. And then that's what you come up with? It's not even like, you need to wash my car for a month or something. Right. It's like, get naked and slide across the floor.
Now, in a once-a-year tradition dubbed the car wash, the first player said that some players would stand naked at the entrance to the showers and spin around, forcing those entering the shower to basically rub up against a bare naked man. So you're essentially standing there and just spinning in a circle like a car wash would, an
you have
automatic
to push your way
wash
through them.
And then they would essentially hose them down, which the guy said was extremely painful. So they apparently had a hose in there that then they would hose them down. And then he also witnessed and said, the player also alleged that he witnessed and was forced to participate. So this kind of, I'm not sure if he meant to say this, but it kind of at least narrows down who the guy is. Was forced to participate in what was called a naked center quarterback exchange, wherein a freshman quarterback was forced to take an under center snap from a freshman center while both players were naked. And it just kind of goes on and on. The second player confirms the allegations. There's a lot of other stuff. They did a Gatorade shake challenge where they just forced teammates and freshmen to just drink as much Gatorade shakes as they could in 10 minutes. And he said he never saw anyone not throw it up. It's just dumb stuff. I mean, they're college kids. I mean, they're going to be idiots. We went to college together. We were quite the idiot morons.
For the record, we were way better than this.
Way better than this.
We were so much more creative than the Northwestern football team. When we were in college, our stuff that we did, and it wasn't hazing other people necessarily, but the stuff that we did was exactly. We were far better and far more creative than the Northwestern football team. So I'm disappointed 100%. On multiple levels in the Northwestern football team.
And this was years before this. So, I mean, they've had plenty of time to catch up and exceed us. But so that's basically it. I mean, I just, it goes on and on and on. But
it sounds like they knew about it. For it.
Yeah. So it sounds like they knew about it. And then the president comes out and says, well, you know what? Maybe we made a mistake. And so now the other extreme is let's just fire the guy.
Gotta fire him now. Yeah. So there's two things, right? And we talk about this type of stuff on the show a lot. Nowadays, and the way the culture is and everything else, you almost have to fire this person. Now, I'm not going to say right now because again, I'm hearing like this stuff is constantly coming out as breaking. You're reading stuff that's brand new that just got printed a couple of minutes ago. So, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I've done a deep enough dive to truly have my own opinion right now on whether or not he should, meaning he being head coach Pat Fitzgerald, should lose his job over this. He has lost his job over it, but I can tell you that when it happened, when all of the stuff came out, it is very rare that any coach on any level would be able to keep a job with this stuff happening. It's incredibly rare. And setting aside for a moment what Pat Fitzgerald may have done at Northwestern and may have overlooked or encouraged or just tolerated, setting that aside for a moment. First of all, this hazing stuff is so stupid. I don't even know why people are still doing this. I mean, it's so dumb. And if you're an athlete or just, I don't care if you're in a fraternity and you're not even an athlete or just a regular student, you look dumb. Don't do it. It's stupid. Yeah. It has nothing to do with like sensitivities or anything else. It's just dumb. Yeah. You think it's not, but it is. And then separate from that is the fact that you're going to look dumb because it's going to come out. Because every person in the world nowadays has one of these, right?
There you go.
Here, I got two right here, right? So everybody has at least one, and everybody's filming everything all of the time. So the idea that you can do this stuff and then somehow, like, it's not going to catch up with you, man, it feels right at the time. You're always wrong. You are 100% of the time wrong. And now the thing that's going to be interesting is, and we'll never get a chance to hear the other side of this, but this goes back a little ways. So Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach of Northwestern, he was actually a star linebacker for Northwestern in the 90s. And he's been the head coach there. Yeah, and been the head coach at Northwestern since 2006. So this dude is not just like a head coach getting fired. He's an icon at that school. And so this is a bigger deal than it might be at other schools. But the fact of the matter is there was no chance. Now, I will tell you this. Again, let me preface by saying, setting aside whatever Pat Fitzgerald did wrong, Northwestern could not have handled this situation much more poorly than they did. Because when this happens, there's a very simple playbook. It is so easy. You say, we're going to suspend the coach during this investigation. It's the summertime anyway, right? It's a non-issue. We're going to suspend him during this investigation until we get all the facts. And then when we get all the facts, we'll iron out what our course of action is. But that's not what Northwestern did. What Northwestern did was they said, basically with a wink and a nod, like, well, look, the guy's an icon here. He's a big deal. Like, we'll make a show of it. We'll suspend him for 2 weeks in the middle of the summer when nothing's happening anyway. So there's no real loss, but it shows that we care and we did something, right? They tried to like cheat the system a little bit, but this system can't be cheated. It doesn't work that way. And so now when the investigation inevitably comes out and everything else happens, then you realize like, we shouldn't have just suspended the guy for 2 weeks in the middle of the summer. And now we're the ones that look bad. You had the opportunity to look good, collecting all the facts, all the information, and making a very rational, cautious, careful, and fair decision. Instead, you look like you tried to cover it up because of the popularity of the head coach. And now you got caught. So now you have to go all the way to the other end of the spectrum and fire him. Right? Yep. Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, and that's what it is when the president comes out and says, yeah, maybe, we probably need to rethink this. And like, well, what were you, this wasn't like a whim decision. Clearly they had a whole investigation that was already done. And then you got all the facts and then you say, yeah, 2 weeks, middle of the summer. So what do you mean? Maybe you should have, rethought the process, or that should have already been done. Clearly it was done. You just tried to sneak this under and throw it out on I don't know, probably a Friday, just do a Friday news dump where it's going to get washed out, with everything else going on the weekend. No one cares. And the story just kept getting legs and getting legs. Oh, Now you got to come back out and you got to reverse everything. And then you went to the extreme end. Maybe you suspend them for, you could have maybe suspended them for the year, or you could have suspended them, half of the season or something, and probably would have appeased most people, because I mean, yes, hazing
no
is
one
dumb.
died or
Hazing
was seriously
is
injured,
and that's exactly it. Now there's more stuff coming out where and again, this is stuff I did not literally, this broke 15 minutes before we came on.
Yeah.
I've seen some things where, they're now claiming he's fostered, like a racist atmosphere. I saw that pop up. And so I don't know what that is. There could be way, way, way more, to that. There was something in there about the women's cheerleading, being forced to cut their braids, African-American women being forced to cut their braids, something with the African-American men, having to do the same, or something under Fitzgerald. So, kind of that whole fostering of a racist atmosphere. I know, again, we just got on, this just broke. So could any of that be true? Maybe that's the new stuff that came out. Didn't sound like it, but maybe that's, now, of course, now there's way more stuff that comes out. And that's how it always goes, though.
Yep.
Someone does something, and then all of a sudden it's just a news dump upon a dump upon a dump. And then all this stuff comes out, and you're like, where did all this stuff come from?
Yeah. Who knew this all the time? Who knew that all this information this whole time and didn't use it? And now everyone has it.
Yeah, especially this day and age, with like, if someone's being forced to cut their hair, how
that's a
is
big
none
deal
of that stuff? Yeah, like, how is that not coming out? Like, how did that not come out until after he gets fired? Then all of a sudden, so take that with a grain of salt, because again, I didn't do any research. It was just something that popped up on my timeline of like, hey, also this. So maybe there's way more to it.
But there is the other part of that too, which is it's going to be very interesting what the Northwestern administration knew and didn't do anything about. As you're talking about some of these things about forcing haircuts and different things like that, I would be surprised. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'd be surprised if none of those students ever complained to anyone and got swept under the rug. It would be surprising.
No, I guarantee. And it's probably, according to the article I had read, that like they had gone to the administration about things, and, and they said that the administration was understanding and, and looked into stuff, but didn't really seem like, during the whole process of when they were saying something, that they really took any action, obviously. So I don't know how much, they've swept under the rug. And then if this keeps going, and that could have just been, Fitzgerald is the old sacrificial lamb at this point. Like, hey, let's just cut bait and hope it all goes away so we keep our jobs, because that whole Penn State scandal, which was a million times worse than this scandal could ever possibly be. But that just snowballed into many, many heads rolling, so it's, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, so there's probably way more to it. If it's just that, I don't know. Had they come out with a stricter, punishment at that point, maybe, maybe this would have blown over, but they didn't. They gave him 2 weeks. So
no, you tried to do the slap on the wrist, and then, now you got caught, and then there's no longer a middle ground.
No,
like that's the thing that's frustrating, because you nailed you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said maybe they could have gotten away with suspending him for a year before. And then guess what? It gets forgotten about. Now, I'm not saying that's the right thing, but it's what would have happened. Fitzgerald would be out for a year, then he'd come back the following season, and then, the team gets back to normal and whatever. You're able to get past it, and you're able to keep, this icon of your program still in that elevated type of role, and have that perception of him be really good. But now it's all shot. Like, and that's dicey. So, So anyway, Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald fired after this hazing incident. And I don't know what you do with him after this. Like, I don't know what's next for him. I mean, does he get another job? Are teams scared of this? I would say 2-3 years from now, there's every possibility that he gets back into the game.
I could, but I mean, it's not like Northwestern was some powerhouse football team. I mean, geez,
Right. True.
he had a losing record in the Big Ten, barely a winning record. I think he was 109 and 101 or something like that in his career there. So he lasted way longer. Now, I don't know. Maybe Northwestern's just way more difficult to get into than, say, a Michigan or Ohio State or something.
Right.
I don't know. But, it's not like this dude set the world on fire as a football coach. So maybe. I mean, people are going to stay away from him for a long time. So hopefully he's saved his money up, and we'll see if his contract gets paid out or if his contract gets null and voided for cause.
That'll be interesting because you're right. I mean, so Pat Fitzgerald is 48 years old. He finishes his time at Northwestern with a 110 and 101 record. So 9 more wins than losses. He had 2 Big Ten West Division titles and 5 bowl wins. And of course, as we know, bowl wins nowadays mean almost nothing because there are about 214 different bowls. It's not like it used to be. So the idea of bowl wins that schools still talk about that is like, I mean, pretty soon they'll have like bowls for high school teams to be able to claim that they won as well. So sure. Bowls don't really mean anything, but yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think Northwestern football is going to be so much worse off without Pat Fitzgerald coaching it. When you have a sample size of 211 games from a head coach and you only win 110 of them, 211 game total. If you have a sample size of 211 games from a head coach and you lost 101 of them, you're not great, right? That's just what it is. And so, I don't see him going to, Ohio State after this, no matter what happens.
Right.
So, but that kind of leads into a story that is similar in some ways and different in some ways. And that is, boy, this is, every time you think you've heard of like, okay, now I've heard it all. Now I've heard every way that a coach could get fired or resign or quit in protest or any number of things that could happen. Some creative guy comes out there or gal and finds a new way to accomplish the goal. And today we're going to talk about former-ish West Virginia basketball coach Bob Huggins. And this is one of the weirder ways that you ever could leave a job that you'll ever hear. So, long story short, Bob Huggins gets busted for driving under the influence. He has a breathalyzer, and they determined that his blood alcohol content was more than twice the legal limit. Now, this was June 16th. This was not that long ago. It was a month ago, basically. And I think if I heard this correctly, and I haven't like researched this quite enough. I heard though that he was, I believe, driving home from a Taylor Swift concert.
Fantastic if he was.
I swear I believe I heard that. I don't quote me on that. I need to look. I'm gonna like if you can look it up while I'm talking or something to see if I'm right, because I'll try to find it too. But I feel like that's what I had heard. But regardless, June 16th, he gets busted in Pittsburgh for driving under the influence. So Bob Huggins.
Well, now, I know there was a Taylor Swift concert there in Pittsburgh, so that is very possible.
Okay. Now we're going to find out. So Bob Huggins, for those who don't know, is a very, would you say legendary college basketball coach?
Yeah. I mean,
tier below legendary.
He's right there. Yeah.
I mean, if he's not legendary, he's a Hall of Fame basketball coach, minimally. Like, he would definitely be a Hall of Famer. Very successful college basketball coach. He's coached in a few different places. He's currently most recently been at West Virginia University. So he gets this DUI in mid-June, and his resignation was announced by the university the following night. He had sent in a notice to the school that he was going to be resigning. Now, Bob Huggins has come back and said, I never resigned. and I want my job back immediately. And the school says, well, we have your resignation letter. It was sent to us electronically. However, there is a twist. The letter was sent to the school by his wife's account, not his account. And attorneys have said that typically in a standard contract, you, as the person under contract, have to be the one to submit anything in writing as it pertains to your contract. A family member cannot submit anything for you as it pertains to a contract.
That makes sense.
Now, I've dealt with this in my career before in jobs with contract disputes and things where you might have, whether it's a business or an individual, let's say a husband signs a contract and then the wife finds out about it later because she didn't know. And she contacts you and says, hey, we need to cancel that contract. She can't because the contract's not in her name, right? And so you have the same thing, an elderly parent, and then the son or the daughter contacts you, say, hey, we want to cancel that contract. Well, you need to have them cancel the contract. You can't cancel the contract. And so Bob Huggins is essentially saying, I never formally, officially, technically, legally, however you want to put it, I never resigned, and I want my job back, and I want it back immediately. And if I don't get it back, I'm going to sue the school. Pretty great. This reminded me of is it what was it Costanza that flipped out? George Costanza flips out, quits, and comes back to work the next day and is just like, what? You believe that? I was just joking around.
Yes.
It's the same type of thing. Bob Huggins is essentially the George Costanza of men's college basketball.
All right. So I have just real quick, a little update to the Taylor Swift controversy. So,
okay.
Pittsburgh police confirmed to CBS Sports on Saturday that the blotter posting by the public information officer, Kara Cruz, was an official account of Huggins' arrest that happened approximately a half a mile from Acrisure Stadium, which hosted a highly anticipated Taylor Swift concert on Friday night. So we don't know for sure he was there, but why else would you be within a half a mile of Acrisure Stadium?
Yeah, on the night of a Taylor Swift concert, you're not going to be a half a mile away from the stadium just hanging out for any other reason and drunk.
No, and drunk.
So the real question, the real controversy is, does anyone out there have video footage of Bob Huggins drunk at the Taylor Swift concert in Pittsburgh, June 16th? If so, send it into the You Get the Horn show. We want to see it. We cannot pay for content, but we can show appreciation. That's right. We will give attribution to anyone who can send that into us. We want your video evidence of Bob Huggins being drunk at the Taylor Swift show in Pittsburgh, June 16th. If you send in video evidence of Bob Huggins drunk at other Taylor Swift shows, we will accept it, but we will not give attribution because we're only looking for the Pittsburgh concert June 16th. I'll be very specific. Pittsburgh, June 16th. Bob Huggins drunk videos, we will accept them happily. Because you know someone has to have seen it. Even if they didn't know it. Go back. If you were at the Taylor Swift concert in Pittsburgh on June 16th, you definitely took a bunch of videos. Scroll through your phone and look up Bob Huggins and see if in the background of any of your videos you happen to see Bob Huggins.
Oh my gosh.
He was there.
How fantastic would it be if someone actually did have it and send it to us?
That's the hope, man. That would be great. That's the reason to go viral right there.
That's exactly it. Our white whale.
I love it.
So he pretty much just wants to either. It sounds like he's probably just wanting his money at this point. Well, like, no, now you got to fire me officially so I can get paid because I don't. Yeah, but did his wife then just write the email? Was she so mad that she was like, because who does that? Like, who writes it? And it was like, oh no, that wasn't me. That was my wife. Well, why did your wife write that? Like,
exactly. Was that a prank? What?
Yeah.
So here's what I have on that. So West Virginia, now this is coming from the college, right? West Virginia University said Huggins met with his players and members of the basketball staff on June 17th. So the very next day. So he sobered up. He came in the next day.
Maybe he wasn't at that point. I don't know.
Exactly. Might still been drunk. He came in June 17th to announce that he would no longer be coaching the team. The school said that Huggins clearly communicated his resignation and retirement in writing, and that both parties have reasonably relied on that resignation and retirement notification in a number of ways since then. Now, the university has provided the Associated Press with a copy of a notice sent by Huggins' wife the same day, and it read, "Please accept this correspondence as my formal notice of resignation as WVU head basketball coach and as notice of my retirement from West Virginia University effective immediately." The notice was sent from an email address associated with June Huggins, Bob Huggins' wife, with a signature indicating that it was sent via iPhone. It was sent to the school's email address and did not appear to be a text message. And West Virginia Athletic Director Ren Baker responded an hour later by writing, "We accept your resignation and wish you the best in retirement. We appreciate your many years of dedication to WVU." And less than an hour after that, the university released two statements. One of them announced Huggins' resignation. The other was titled "A Message from Bob Huggins to the WVU Community" and began, "Today, I have submitted a letter to President Gordon Gee and Vice President and Director of Athletics Ren Baker, informing them of my resignation and intention to retire as head men's basketball coach at West Virginia University effective immediately." So that's a hard one to say, like, nope, I did not not resign. You can't prove it.
It's so odd. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Do you think June Huggins has a Juno account? It's got to be some old account, right? I mean,
yeah.
June Evans at Juno.com.
No one will even remember Juno. Like, nobody who's watching this right now will know.
Heck, look it up.
It's still out there.
June Evans.
But yes, I mean, long story short, Bob Huggins got a DUI, resigned in writing to the school the next day, met with the players, and clearly resigned, and now has come back and said, "Nah, I did not resign, and I want my job back immediately." Two, of course, you hit the nail on the head. The school is going to now have to officially fire him and then would have to pay out the remainder of his contract. And look, if this, it has to be, right? There couldn't be any more than that.
I mean, can you just say, well, listen, I was still blackout drunk. I don't remember, so it doesn't count.
It's possible.
I mean,
it can't hurt. I mean, he seems to be very gutsy on everything else the way he's playing this. So why not? Yeah.
That is so odd. It's got to be like, crap, I should have just let myself get fired. Like, he just had, like, he immediately had buyer's remorse of retiring. Because I'm assuming if he retires, he probably doesn't. Like, I don't even know if that's the case. Maybe there's something in the contract that he still gets so much money if he retires. But I presume if he quits that they're not going to pay him. But I don't know for sure. But if that's the case, or if it's not the case, then I don't know. Like, he's got to just be playing the, man, I was still drunk. Like, you can't accept that. Like, I wasn't in my right mind. And in which case they're going to be like, well, look, we got to fire you anyway. So.
Exactly. That's it. That's the way you should play it.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I'm drunk right now. I'm currently drunk.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Fire me? Yeah.
I wish you would.
Yeah. Which at that point I would have to assume for cause, but I don't know. It's such a weird thing. I mean, the only thing I can guess is just to see if he can get more money out of the team.
Well, there is his attorney has said that Huggins does not desire litigation. Rather, he is simply looking for the correction of a clear breach of his employment agreement with WVU. So, just like, The school clearly breached the agreement, not drunk Bob Huggins at a Taylor Swift concert who also sent in his resignation. He's not the problem. This is a school issue, but we're willing to remedy it and keep it super simple. We don't need to make this messy for anybody.
No, we don't want to litigate. Just pay us what's remaining on that contract that I just re-signed. That's the only thing it can possibly be. I mean, and how does attorney keep a straight face on that stuff? I guess if there's an opportunity to make $150,000, $200,000, you just take a straight face and be like, oh my gosh,
you're not sitting there trying to advise Bob Huggins to not pursue this.
Right.
You're like, no, you're right, Bob. You want to go after this? I say, let's do it to the fullest extent of the law.
Let's do it.
And look, I mean, again, we hit on this earlier, but I just want to be like clear so that people understand. So Bob Huggins is 69 years old. He's the third winningest coach all time in Division I men's college basketball. He has 935 wins. He trails only Mike Krzyzewski of Duke, who has 1,202, and Jim Boeheim of Syracuse, who has 1,015. And both of those guys are retired. Yeah. So realistically, Bob Huggins could just keep hanging on, and end up as the winningest coach in men's college basketball history. And maybe that's 69. Why he decided to come back. Yeah, he's 69 years old. I mean, he could definitely coach for another 5-7 years or longer if he wanted to. I mean, how long did John Wooden coach? I feel like he was like 87 or something when he retired. Yeah. He looked it, but people looked a lot older back then.
They really did. Yeah.
It's really weird. You see really old pictures and dude, like, he looks like so old. You know, oh, he's 37 in that picture. 37, he has wooden teeth.
Yeah. It's so weird. Yeah. My old newspaper back in Pennsylvania, you know, the people will put ads in there, and you know, it'd be like, "Lordy, Lordy, look who's 40," and it'd be a picture of the guy, and it'd be like, "Dang, is this what I'm going to look like when I'm 40?"
And the answer was yes.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
People are going to look at pictures of us in our 40s and be like, "Good Lord, that guy looks like the Crypt Keeper."
Gosh, what happened?
But anyway, Bob Huggins is no joke. I mean, he's a very, 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 like we talked about earlier. I mean, he is you know, one of the winningest coaches in history. The only thing with Bob Huggins, the only thing not on his resume, he has not won a national title. He took Cincinnati to the Final Four in 1992. He took West Virginia to the Final Four in 2010. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He got into the Basketball Hall of Fame last September. In 41 seasons, Bob Huggins' teams went to 25 NCAA tournaments and finished ranked in the AP Top 10 7 times. And since he's been with West Virginia, they made 11 NCAA tournament appearances. So, I mean, the guy's a very legit coach, but apparently a very legit Taylor Swift fan and a very legit alcohol fan, and causing some issues for him.
Causing some issues. Frickin' Taylor Swift, man.
She gets her hooks in you. You don't know. Things get crazy at these shows.
Yeah.
That's the angle you haven't seen a lot about this Bob Huggins story, is the Taylor Swift involvement. Like, what responsibility does Taylor Swift have? If Bob Huggins wasn't so entertained that fateful June 16th night in Pittsburgh, maybe he stays sober. But he's having too much fun. He's enjoying himself too much.
Well, it sounds like he did have way too much fun, because it sounds like Taylor Swift went on at about 8 o'clock, and by 8:30 he's arrested. So he couldn't even stick around for her. He was just there for the opening acts, apparently.
Yeah. Maybe he was dropping like family members off, but he's already hammered driving there to drop them off, and then still like,
or he's just hanging out in the parking lot, you know, just tailgating, you know. I'm gonna get out of here. All right, you kids.
I'll pick you up in a few hours. I'm gonna go home and have a few more natty ices, and then I'll pick you up. I'll drink in the garage, and I'll pick you up in a little while.
Yeah, what is Bob Huggins' drink of choice? It's got to be something like that, right? It's got to be. I mean, it's old school for sure.
Oh, it's old school.
Yeah,
it's old school. Oh, yeah, he's like. I mean, I don't know enough about Bob Huggins. Not that I know enough.
Sure.
I mean,
I know plenty about Bob Huggins.
I'm not looking to know more about Bob Huggins. I know enough. I shouldn't say I don't know enough. I know more than enough, but I can tell you that he is from Morgantown, West Virginia. That's where he's from. So he's coaching like his hometown team right now. And so what are you drinking if you're in Morgantown, West Virginia? Boy, that's a tough one. I don't know. We'll have to think about that one. I mean, on a Taylor Swift night, I mean, it could easily be a Miller High Life on a Taylor Swift night, but that's not going to be every night.
Now, according to Beer Advocate, the top-rated beers in West Virginia are Halleck Pale Ale,
okay,
Holy Citra Deepa, which is an Imperial IPA, Six-Legged Frog, Bourbon Barrel Porter, Double Pit, South Park, Big Boy Pants. I feel like it's none of these, though.
No, he's not drinking anything that advanced.
No, this is way too advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Huggins is drinking like Natty Ice or something.
He's got to be.
Milwaukee's best.
Milwaukee's best,
something
Busch
like
Light.
that.
Yeah, Busch Light, something to that effect. Yeah. He's not drinking any of these. Yeah, Six-Legged Frog. I'm seeing that a lot here. Something Ales in Davis. It's an IPA. Yeah.
Check it out.
There we go.
All right. So why don't we move on from Bob Huggins, as West Virginia's trying to do, and talk. Can't seem to get rid of him. But we'll move on here. So the last little bit of sports I think that we're going to talk about, and this is just kind of like a cross of a few different things. We were talking about it a little bit in the intro before the show actually started. And just like what is going on with these incredible young players that we're seeing now, the players that are really good but aren't leaving teams that they should leave, and in some ways are kind of wasting their careers, unfortunately, on some teams. And there were a few things to talk about, and so one of them, and I'm actually going to give a shout out to our buddy Damon. Damon's a big fan of the show, always watches the show, watches our videos, comments on them all the time. He asked the other day if we had done anything yet on Victor Wembanyama. And the answer was not really. We've barely mentioned him maybe, but we hadn't really done a whole lot. And we're still not going to do a whole lot, but at least if nothing else, we can bring it up because so the NBA is having the summer league right now. Victor Wembanyama, for those who don't know, is the most hyped prospect, what would you say, since LeBron James? I mean, it's hard to imagine anyone more hyped coming in than Victor Wembanyama.
If there is, it's slipping my mind. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, I'd say he's the most hyped prospect since LeBron James, and so he comes in and he plays in the first game of the summer league. And is not impressive. I don't have the stats from the first game in front of me, but it was like he had 5 points or something like that, and just there wasn't a lot of good stuff happening. I don't know if you have those stats. I just don't have them in front of me right
now. I don't have it right in front of me. I know the second game went way much better than the last game, but the first game. But yeah, it was. I mean, he still ended up with a ton of blocks and things like that. So I mean, I guess not awful, but he even come out and said he had no idea what he was doing. So it was kind of, it was refreshing to see. It definitely was nice for him to come out and say, I had no clue. So,
yeah. Well, so I found it here. So his first game, he scored 9 points, had 8 rebounds and 5 blocks, which isn't terrible, but he shot 2 of 13 from the field. Yeah. So he shot about 15%, which is not what you would want to see happen. But then he comes out in the second game
too.
Yeah, well, then he comes out in the second game and he has 27 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. He shot 9 of 14 from the field, 2 of 4 for 3-pointers, and the guy is I think 7'5". So if you have a 7'5" player shooting 3-pointers, that's the talent that people are so obsessed with Victor Wembanyama. And now the Spurs, he plays for the San Antonio Spurs. They've already announced they're shutting him down. He's not playing anymore in the summer league. So they're not going to risk any injury to this guy. For those who haven't seen him, I mean, he's got to put on some weight. This guy is super skinny, very thin guy. I mean, again, he's 7'5". I think he's like 7'5", 190 pounds or something ridiculous. So
yeah, I mean, soaking wet, I'm sure, probably with his clothes on, literally his clothes soaked.
I wasn't actually that far off. 7'5", 209 pounds.
Goodness gracious.
It's crazy thin. He weighs less than I weigh, and he's 7'5".
Now ESPN's claiming 7'3", 225. So
whoa,
it looks like
maybe he bulked up and shrank. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it right off his Wikipedia page.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. This is directly on ESPN's website. 7'3", 225. So somewhere between 7'3" and 7'5", and somewhere between 190 and 225. So,
yeah.
Jeez.
But either way, regardless.
Yeah, and he looks like a twig out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So they shut him down now. He won't play anymore in the summer league. And this incredibly hyped prospect. And so, needless to say, the Spurs seem like a good team for Wembanyama to be on, in terms of just being able to slow down the hype. And keep him, like, they're not a team that will just kind of, I don't know, kowtow to what the fans want to see and just be like, screw it, as a rookie, we're going to play him 40 minutes a night. Like, that's not that team. They don't care. And so, though, if they want to play him 5 minutes a night, that's what they're going to do. They don't care what the fans have to say about it. So I do think from that perspective, Wembanyama probably went to the best team he could have in the San Antonio Spurs, because I do think they will protect him.
Yeah, I think so. And they just gave Popovich, gave him another contract extension, which they were. Did you see the? Did you see how much he was getting? So it's going to end up being the highest paid coach. It was it was a lot. I'm trying to pull it up now here. I didn't. So he's 74 years old at this, and he signed an 5-year, $80 million contract.
Not bad.
He's 74.
Not bad.
He's going to be 79 when this is, again,
crazy.
Nothing else to do with his life. Why even take $80 million at this point? Like, what are you going to do with it? You're going to be almost 80 years old when this contract ends. Probably will, depending on when his birthday falls. 80 years old. What are you going to do with $80 million?
Yeah. Come on, Popovich.
Yeah.
You don't need all that.
You don't need it. I just, I don't know. I'm just going to keep my opinion on Popovich to myself. I just, I know everyone thinks he's the greatest basketball coach like alive, apparently, but he hadn't done much without his big people. So we'll see what happens now that they have Wembanyama. Wembanyama.
I believe it's Wembanyama. Yeah, no, agreed. I'll be curious to see what they do for sure. And look, I mean, this is a high risk, high reward player. It's almost impossible for a Victor Wembanyama to live up to the hype. And they need to protect him and control that hype as best they can. And, it reminds me of another player who we thought the same thing about, different sport, but it's almost impossible to live up to the hype, which was Shohei Ohtani. And I don't think there's any argument Shohei Ohtani has lived up to the hype. I mean, this is a bizarre freak of nature player in baseball. And again, for the casual fan, for my mother, we talked about last week, I accidentally said my mother's favorite show in the intro, and then my mother's second favorite show. We are my mother's second favorite show. My mother's favorite show is Jeopardy. You Get the Horns is her second favorite show. Love you, Mom. Know you're watching.
Yeah.
Legitimately her second favorite show, but nothing will surpass Jeopardy. Too. Yeah, distant second. Well, see, there's Jeopardy with Alex Trebek. There's Jeopardy with Ken Jennings. Realistically, there might be our show there because she is not a Mayim Bialik fan. As the host of Jeopardy, she does not like Mayim Bialik too much. So then there's an opportunity where we could sneak in. Okay. If Mayim Bialik ever gets her act together, though, then her version of Jeopardy would certainly slot above us, and then we're in the fourth position. But either way, it's a great spot to be.
Sure.
No room for complaints there. But To the casual fan or non-fan even, Shohei Ohtani is something that he plays for the Angels. No one on the East Coast pays any attention to the Angels. They're always terrible. So the casual fan doesn't need to really take them into consideration at all. Shohei Ohtani is a Japanese player who is both a hitter and a pitcher, and he does both incredibly well. He could be an all-star player as both a pitcher and a hitter. So it's amazing. And now they're saying that Shohei Ohtani may have just had the best month in the history of Major League Baseball. So I'm going to bring this information to you. This is straight from Jeff Passan with ESPN. And this will kind of give you a frame of reference of what Shohei Ohtani has done just last month. In the modern era that started in 1900, upwards of 20,000 men have played Major League Baseball. Over that time, there have been well over 1 million individual months of baseball played. And toward the end of June, one person's awe-inspiring day-after-day performance prompted a question that seemed worth trying to answer. Is Shohei Ohtani having the best single month in baseball history? Now, you can go through and look at everything that you want to find to pull all the different stats, and I'm not going to bore people with going through every single thing. But for the month of June, Shohei Ohtani batted .394. He led the major leagues in on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, home runs, RBIs, extra base hits, and total bases.
Jeez.
He also threw 30 and a third innings as a pitcher, at a 3.26 ERA, 37 strikeouts, and an opponent slash line of 228, 302, and 368. So what we're saying is opponents hit 228 against Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher at the same time that he basically led the majors in every single category as a hitter. It's just never even been, there's nothing close to what Shohei Ohtani's doing right now. You could look at him as a phenomenal pitcher, and then you could look at him as a phenomenal hitter, and he's both, and he's doing it at the same time. And it's being wasted on a team like the Anaheim Angels.
Yeah, so I was going to say they're currently 7 games back, lost 5 straight, 1-9 in their last 10. Baseball is like, I guess that's maybe why I do enjoy baseball and football so much. Is it's just the ultimate team sport, and maybe baseball more than anything else, because in football, if you have a Tom Brady, if you have a Patrick Mahomes, you always have a chance. But in baseball, one player, literally, he tries to do it all and he can't. I think there was I wish I had it up, and I saw it quickly the other night. They had lost a game and he literally had the numbers were just ridiculous what he did. And he put up I don't think he had 3 RBIs, 5 runs scored, just something ridiculous, right? And they still lost the game. And it was it just goes to show you, one guy doesn't really make all that difference in baseball. At least it doesn't appear to be. And he's putting up great numbers, but for what, right? I mean, people are coming, opposing cities, they're selling out. They're when he's playing, they're selling out their stadiums. Yeah. Angels, they're still selling out there. So, he is a freak of nature, and people are coming to watch it. This reminds me of Barry Bonds when he was in his absolute prime. Yep. People just couldn't wait to get there to see what he was doing. Barry was only doing it with the bat, but it's phenomenal what he's doing. But it feels like, okay, what's it going to mean in the grand scheme of things? When it's all said and done. If you go down could he possibly go down as the greatest player of all time if he never even sniffs a World Series? And greatest of all time. He
won't be thought of like that.
Right.
He won't be thought of like that probably, except he may because of the pitching aspect. to do both. Like, think about part of Babe Ruth's legend is people talk about, oh man, but he was a phenomenal pitcher until he quit doing that to focus on hitting. But what if Ohtani never quits pitching? Like, there's never been anyone that did that at this level. But you're right. I mean, if you don't win, it people don't think of you as a true as the best or potentially one of the very, very best players if you don't win. Think about it. Dan Marino, if he had won that Super Bowl, whole different ball game in terms of his legacy and how he's thought of. Right? He's still thought of as a great quarterback, but it'd be very different if he had won a Super Bowl or two.
Where would Jim Kelly rank if he won 4 straight Super Bowls instead of losing 4 straight Super Bowls?
Right.
He would be up there in the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks of all time. Like, he would have to be. You win 4 straight Super Bowls, you are going to be mentioned up there. You're going to be mentioned among the greats. And don't get me wrong, Jim Kelly's a Hall of Famer, phenomenal football player. He was, great. Went to 4 straight Super Bowls, but is never, ever mentioned up there in that, I guess it probably gets thrown around a lot, but whatever. It's the best analogy I can come up. The Mount Rushmore of, all-time quarterbacks, right? He's never mentioned in that pantheon of those quarterbacks. Had he won, though, those Super Bowls, he'd be on there for sure. I mean, without a doubt, he'd be on there for sure. So, yeah, I mean, to be playing as well as Ohtani's playing, and now your team is 1 game under 500 and you're 7 games out, which is still not, you can still make that up. But now Mike Trout's on the DL. He's going to be on there for an extended period of time. It seems like time is finally catching up to Trout, even though he's still putting up ridiculous numbers. Time is starting to catch up. The injuries are starting to come up. Now, this was, like one of those freak hamate bone injuries where they just swing the bat and, the way they're holding the bat breaks, a piece of bone in the hand. It's kind of freak, but that's kind of what all of his injuries have just been these freak things that just keep coming back and nagging. It's just such a shame. He's got to be gone, right? I mean, he's got to go elsewhere. Now, I know there's a lot of people that still think he could sign back with the Angels just because of his comfortability with it. He has people there, and that's one of the reasons why he picked Anaheim to begin with. But I mean, Boston comes calling with a $600 million contract. The Yankees come calling.
Yeah.
Is he gonna turn it down?
It's tough. I mean, here's the thing, right? And if you are the Angels, you have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout on the same team at the same time, and you haven't been able to put anyone else around them to be a legitimate contender. You deserve to lose both of them. However, the Angels need to sell tickets. So my guess is you're going to let one of those players go and you're going to try everything humanly possible to keep the other one. And I think the most likely one that they would be able to keep is going to be Mike Trout. Well, I think Ohtani probably leaves.
Yeah, and it's hard to find maybe a trade partner, and I'm not sure, I'm sure Trout probably has a no trade clause. I'm sure they gave him the works when he signed that huge, massive contract with them. So you've already, you're probably stuck. I mean, I guarantee there would be teams that would give up a ton of stuff to get Mike Trout, but you'd be giving up a lot more to get Ohtani. And then there we are at the trade deadline now. What do the Angels do? If that's a serious conversation you would have to have with Shohei Ohtani. Set him down. What are give us your realistic expectations for us and for this team? Because if not, hey man, let's get you to a contender and, let us, accumulate picks, because there's going to be teams out there at the trade deadline. If they can get him, will give up half their farm system for him, which 100%. Might be a better way for them to go, because clearly they can't just purchase players like they try to do. So
think about Ohtani on a team with some coverage around him. A good batter before him, after him, sandwiched in, you hide him in the middle or you put him in cleanup. I mean, it's like right now, they have Trout, they have Ohtani, they have no one else. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know there are other players on the team. Angels fans are going to be, angry at us for saying there's no one else. But the reality is you got 2 really legit players And, but if you could, I wouldn't ever want to see this, but if you plugged an Ohtani into like the Yankees lineup or something like that, or like any of these other teams, even Tampa. But here's the thing. Who is going to be able to pay him? It's looking like Shohei Ohtani will likely get a $500 to $600 million contract. And I love this. I saw this recently and I pulled this. So Spot Track, who, they always talk about, like contract values and everything else. So they recently revealed contract valuations for Ohtani. And if you want to have, if there were any confusion at all, if there was any confusion about how good Shohei Ohtani is, these are the valuations that they put on what the 28-year-old Shohei Ohtani would warrant having as a pitcher and as a hitter. If he were a pitcher, he could sign an 8-year, $230 million deal. If he were only a pitcher. And as a hitter, 10 years, $333 million. Those two things combined are $563 million. Currently, the largest contract is Mike Trout's 12-year, $426.5 million extension. Needless to say, 12 years, $426 million is nothing compared to 10 years, $563 million.
There you go.
It's crazy. And I mean, obviously you have things too about, Fernando Tatis, and, and his big extension and all these, but nothing is going to come close to what Shohei Ohtani. Now, the question is who can pay it and who will pay it? And I have no idea, but I'm very curious to see.
So the trade deadline would strictly be just to try and win a World Series this year. And so you would give up, you may not be able to give up as much, being that there's not as much control that they would have on him. It's not like they have another year or 2 years with him, but you're going to get, you would be getting a couple players as far as top 10 prospects in a farm system for sure. So I tell you, a team that would, oh man, I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. I follow the Nationals a lot too. The Pirates had a chance at the beginning of the year. Late May, they had the best record in the NL, and now there's 6 games under 500. When that NL, when the Central was just up for grabs, they had a chance to take it, but they didn't. Now a team that's there and is making noise is the Cincinnati Reds.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you think about what the Reds are doing right now with Ellie De La Cruz. And I mean, they have a phenomenal young lineup. Now, do they have the money? Are they going to spend the money, that amount of money? That's a monster. And they got to sign Ellie at some point.
Yep. So
and he's going to be a monster contract himself. I have no idea. I mean, he's so young, though. I mean, they still have a little bit of time for him, but still, I mean. Time.
So this would be, again, probably just we weren't expected to be here. And this is why everyone was saying the Pirates, when they had that record, like should have been trying to make moves, should have been trying to do things. And, the GM was just like, pretty much came out and said like, yeah, we're playing over what we should be right now. Came out and
guys,
said
we're
that.
the Pirates. We're the Pirates.
Yeah,
Calm
that's
down.
pretty much what it was. Like, yeah, we're playing way better than we should be. Like, we're just going to keep the same. It's like, no, man, you have a chance to go to the playoffs. Anything can happen in these playoffs. And now the Reds are only a game up on Milwaukee, 7 up on Chicago, 8.5 up on Pittsburgh. But it's there right now for the taking. The Central. They win that division. They get a playoff game at home. I mean, it's there. So, I mean, I would love to see it, man. Just that young team. Oof. And then you bring someone like Shohei in, just the electricity in that ballpark. I mean, say what you want about, Cleveland, or Ohio or whatever, but man, like Reds fans are fanatics when it comes to their baseball team. And they're there. Good, bad, and different, they're there. Yeah. So I couldn't imagine that ballpark would just be on fire every single night. So I would love to see them make a swing for it. Again, I think it would come down to the Angels saying, they would have to just find out, whether Ohtani would agree to that or not, saying, whether or not he's going to be there or re-sign with him or not. If he gives any indication that he's not, you got to trade him. I get something for him. You got to get something for him.
Yeah. Has to to happen. And I mean, look, there's so many interesting things, right? Because you're right. I mean, the Cincinnati would make a ton of sense. I don't think it'll happen. Like, no one thinks any of these things will happen. You just don't know how things are going to play out. But, man, I mean, the dream, because, obviously I'm from Baltimore. I'm an Orioles fan. I mean, plugging him into the middle of the young lineup because the Orioles don't have anyone that they have to pay, really. And you got Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson and Cedric Mullins and, all these guys, Ryan Mountcastle, and then you're dropping a Shohei Ohtani in the middle of that lineup would be a nuclear bomb and hitting in Camden Yards. Even though they moved that wall out a little bit still. I mean, Ohtani ain't going to have any trouble. But the problem is the Orioles are not going to spend the $500 or $600 million, and they'd have to give up. So almost all the players that I just mentioned in the Orioles lineup, the vast majority of them are farm system players that came up. And so they don't have a lot of money tied in. They drafted these guys. They brought them up through the farm system. So now you're not going to want to trade them away to get an Ohtani, or else you end up in the exact same position, both for him and as a team, as the Angels, where you don't have anyone but him. And that's the Orioles have done plenty of that over the years of just trying to have a guy or two, a name or two to sell tickets, but not really building a legitimate team. So, crazy.
Again, this is just going to be for 1 year. This is just going to be for half a season.
Right. That's true.
So
that's true.
You're not
rental,
really. You're not. So, I mean, I'm assuming you're going to give up farm system guys. You're not giving up any of your everyday starters.
Right.
And it's just to make that run. I mean, so many teams want to win a World Series, want to be in that discussion, that they'll do it. I mean, shoot, the Marlins bought 2 World Series.
That's true.
Zinga bought 2 World Series with them, man. I mean, before they actually became like legit, build the farm system up and everything, they were just giving us away to try and just win it. So don't sell it short. So he's either going to have to give him a guarantee or they're going to trade him. That's my prediction. And I'm going to say Cincy's going to be in it. So mark it. I want it marked. Cincy. Don't be surprised if he ends up in Cincinnati here after the trade deadline.
Well, if I remember correctly, the Orioles are 29th, I believe, in payroll. So they don't spend money. But right now, they're 2 games behind Tampa.
Tampa's falling off, quick. They got on a real bad cold streak.
Yeah, in their last 10 games, Tampa is 3-7. So the Orioles are 2 games behind Tampa. Here's what's interesting. The Orioles have 54 wins currently. 54 wins for the Orioles is the second most in the entire American League. Tampa is first. Orioles are second for most wins. If you were to look at the National League, 54 wins would also give you the second most wins in the National League as well. The only team with more wins is the Braves with 60, and the Marlins actually have 53. So 54 wins for the Orioles has them the second most overall in the American League and the second most overall in the National League. So now again, do I expect it to continue in the second half? Unfortunately not. I want to, but until they get over the troubling history, this has a tendency to be a team that overplays the first half, gets everybody's hopes up, and then drops off. They do have more players now, more talent now than they've had in a very, very long time. So again, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. But just the fantasy of having a Shohei Ohtani in the middle of that lineup would be tantalizing. But I agree with you. The Reds would be pretty phenomenal. And speaking of Ellie Dela Cruz, man, did you see him the other day?
What a fun player, man.
It's crazy. Yeah. So let's talk about this if we can here, and I want to bring it up if you may already have it. But so the other day Ellie De La Cruz is playing. He plays for the Cincinnati Reds, and I don't remember who they're playing. That's what I wanted to look up really quickly because I blanked on who it was that they were playing in the game.
Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it Milwaukee? But anyway, we'll find out. So De La Cruz gets on base, and he's on first base. He steals second. Then he steals third. And he's leading off from third. And as the catcher goes to toss the ball back to the pitcher, he steals home. All in the same inning. The guy stole second, third, and home in the same inning. And it was incredible. And it was such a heads-up play. He's so conscious and aware. And I'm going to tell you the thing that you haven't heard a lot of people talk about. Do you understand how good a shape you have to be in?
Oh, yeah.
To steal second to third and then immediately... No, I'm sorry, steal second, then steal third, and then steal home. So you're stealing 3 bases, and you're at a dead sprint. You're having to outrun major league players trying to gun you down, and the dude had enough stamina to get through and steal home. This all happened in the same inning. It's incredible. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like that. That's a very rare thing to have happen. Yeah, particularly with home being one of them.
Yeah. I mean, how many players steal home a year? I mean, that's got to be in. Is that single digits? It's got to be single digits. That
got to be
stealing home. Yeah. It was the Brewers, by the way. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, Ellie De La Cruz is definitely one of these guys who, again, he's going to have a monster contract at some point. He's still. I mean, he's new into the majors. He just got
30 games in. I think he's only played about 30 games so far.
That's crazy.
It's just electric, man. It's fun. It's good to see these young guys come up and just tear the league up. It's good for baseball. I mean, it's just getting people talking now and more eyes on it. So. It'll be fun to see what happens here in the next couple of years, especially with the Reds, man. Shoot.
Yeah.
But you got to be terrible for such a long time and be able to draft correctly to it seems like. I mean, remember, like, that's kind of what Houston did. Houston was just awful. And then just slowly the pieces just started coming in. And I think it was a Sports Illustrated article like 2 or 3 years before, like, meet the future World Series champions. And it was because they were so young and so well put together. And sure enough, that's, they ended up winning. So, it just takes a while, and some teams just don't get there. It's
true.
It's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you, interesting stat about stealing home. I just looked this up. In the last 50 years, 3,228 base runners have tried to steal home. About 27% have stolen home safely. So needless to say, it's a low number. But here's the thing. Attempts to steal home account for just 1.6% of all stolen base attempts, and successful steal of home account for just 0.6% of all stolen bases.
Gosh, so it never happened.
So it's very rare that people even try to steal home. If you try to steal home, you have about a 27% chance of being successful.
Jeez.
But there's less than a 1% chance that a player will attempt it and succeed at it at any given time.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah. So, but anyway, we've gotten pretty far off topic here. We said we were not only going to talk about sports tonight, but it has been a very sports heavy show, more than probably what we anticipated it being. So we can go ahead and move past some sports now. You want to get into some quick hits?
Let's get into some quick hits.
Let's give the people some quick hits. All right. Quick hits. An Australian bartender found an ATM glitch and blew $1.6 million.
This is great.
So, I mean, like, put yourself in this guy's situation, okay? Dan Saunders, now he's in Australia. Dan Saunders was out drinking in his hometown of Wangaratta, 3 hours north of Melbourne, Australia, when he stumbled upon a bank glitch that briefly made him rich. He had left the bar to get cash and discovered an ATM that was allowing him to withdraw way beyond what he had in the bank. After a bit of trial and error, the 29-year-old realized he'd found a loophole and ran with it. This lasted for like 5 months.
Wow.
He could just keep pulling money out. If he had $1,000 in the bank, he could pull 5,000 out. It didn't matter. Like it just whatever this glitch was just allowed him to continue to pull money out. So over the course of 5 months, Dan managed to spend about $1.6 million of the bank's money through lavish parties, chartered private jets, paid off his friends' school bills, until unsurprisingly, the police caught up to him. And yeah, that's so crazy. I mean, what would you do in this situation, right? Like if you're pulling money out of the bank and then you're like, whoa, wow, oh, why is this happening? Like, what? Like, how long would you go for 5 months? Like some people would just be like, screw it, I guess I'm just gonna not stop doing this. But like, I found it very interesting. Like, what a crazy thing. Was he just like, I deserve this? This is my lucky day. My prayers are being answered. Like I'm so curious, like how that played out for him.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I was trying to read and try to understand. So it was just somehow the timing of it, like he would be overdrawn, but then be able to put money in. So it was like this. Yeah, it was just like the system didn't recognize. And by the time it did, he had already pulled more money out and it just kept snowballing. Yeah. I didn't quite understand it when I read it. I was trying to like, I don't understand, but it sounded like it was just very simple transaction that somehow he just was able to, the way the timing of it was, he had just figured it out. And I was like, how is he the first person to ever figure this out? I know. Like, it's crazy. And then I guess once you're in it, what are you going to do? Like at that point, what point were you like, could he have been like, oh my gosh, man, like I've withdrawn. For me, it would have been like $10,000, right? Like, if he's at 50, 60, 80, 100,000, I mean, he made it all up to $1.5 million. And this guy essentially got a slap on the wrist for this. And he said in the article that the judge and the prosecutor still didn't understand what he did. It was pretty much just like, a year in jail. And then I don't even think he ended up doing the full year. I think he only did a few months and then was like probation after that. So it's like,
I was trying to find exactly the breakdown just to make sure, but I know I have it, but there's,
this guy's, the guy's throwing parties. He's just, it's funny because he says in the article, just like how people treated him different, even like the bank teller, he didn't have money in there, but whatever he's doing, it made it look like he had, $1 million in the bank. And he was like, even the bank teller's looking at him differently. And people look at, now some of his friends were like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, we want no part of this. And then some were like, hey, let's go,
like as far as I'm concerned, if I'm a friend, and just to be clear, so we were just talking about this. So the Australian guy that could pull unlimited money out of his ATM due to a glitch, he got 1 year in jail, but then he was allowed out on an 18-month, essentially community service. Yeah. So you're supposed to do a year in jail, but they let him out if he did 18 months of community service. I mean, who wouldn't do that? And if I'm a friend of the guy, I would not be saying, well, we shouldn't do this. Well, what do I care, man? If all I would be telling the cops is, hey, my buddy gave me money, or my buddy paid for this, or my buddy did this, like, we're friends. Like, what do I have to do with that? Like, I didn't know how we got the money. I don't know anything about it. I don't need to know about it.
He's just a really good bartender, I assume. So yeah,
that's right. People love that dude.
So he went for almost 5 months, I guess, with this before, and he didn't even really get caught, right? Like, I think it was, he turned himself in essentially from what I read in the article.
It was kind of strange because he did. I mean, he turned himself in. So he was seeing a psychiatrist because of the guilt and the anxiety that he was feeling. And the first psychiatrist told him, I'm not qualified to do this.
Even the psychiatrist was like, I don't understand what you did.
Yeah, like I don't get it. And he said, he was like, dude, you're a shrink. Surely you are qualified to talk with me about this. But then he found another therapist who was more sensible. And he didn't tell him what to do or anything, but he did say that, hey, basically, if you really want to get rid of this guilt and anxiety, turn yourself in. And then that's going to clear your conscience and you can move on. So then he went to the newspaper and other media companies. And he said it took 3 print stories and an appearance on national TV before he was taken seriously. No one would believe him when he was trying to turn himself in. So very few people would do what this dude did, which is relentlessly try to turn himself in.
That's it.
For accidentally being able to get money out of an ATM that wasn't his.
Yeah.
He had to try before he could get turned in.
So he calls the bank to tell them, and the bank's like, this is the police matter now. And then waits for the police. And the police are probably like, I don't know what the guy did either. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like this guy probably didn't, be outside of the guilt. And I get that, probably the pressure of every phone call and,
Right.
every person you see on the street,
Today
like,
the day.
every knock on the door, is this the police coming to haul me away? But it sounds like, based on this and how much he had to push to get himself arrested, that they had no clue what he did.
I don't think so.
I mean, even the judge and the prosecutors, the guy got a year. He stole $1 million. How much? $1.5 million?
$1.5 million. Yeah.
And he got a year, which he didn't even have to do. They end up giving him community service. So clearly, and I didn't read anywhere in the article that he had to pay it back. Maybe he does.
No.
I don't know.
I don't know how that would work, because how could he? He's a bartender, makes like $22 an hour. How are you ever going to pay back $1.5 million? I mean, I'm sure they could say he has to, but
I mean, I suppose garnish, $100 a week or something from the guy, for infinity. But
yeah,
it's just so
and I mean, it is
crazy.
insured. Your money's insured, so it's like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, like, it's just so strange.
Yeah, that is a wild thing, man. This guy sounds like, I mean, there was the thing too where we talk about, we've talked about like people just like when's enough. This guy probably, he stopped at probably a good price or a good, a good spot.
Yeah.
And he probably could have just walked away and have been good, but like the conscience caught up with him, and he had to go on national television to get arrested. So that's a funny story.
Yeah, pretty insane stuff, man. Pretty insane. Okay, so moving on, quick hits. I'm gonna kind of be rapid fire on some stuff because we're obviously running long here, but I thought this was kind of interesting. The Miss Universe pageant in the Netherlands, or I guess it's Miss Universe Netherlands, was just won. 22-year-old Ricky Valerie Cole won the pageant on Saturday, which effectively makes her Miss Netherlands. And then by being Miss Netherlands, you then get to compete in the Miss Universe competition later this year. This was maybe by some would have been considered a surprise win for Ricky Valerie Knoll. Ricky Valerie Knoll is a transgender woman, and the first transgender woman to be crowned Miss Netherlands. And everybody seemed pretty cool about it. And this is actually surprisingly not the first trans woman to vie for the Miss Universe title. Spain's Angela Ponce did it in 2018. So I really felt like that was surprising that there was a trans contestant in the Miss Universe pageant in 2018. But it is kind of interesting. The new owner of the Miss Universe organization, Anne Jackrajudatip, is also transgender. So my guess is, at least if nothing else, there's a sympathetic eye and ear from the owner of the Miss Universe pageant, who is transgender, and now the winner of Miss Netherlands is transgender. So it will only be a matter of time before we need to have Miss Netherlands and maybe Mr. Netherlands, or like some only biological versus non-biological. Like, I don't know how you win. I mean, yeah, because we've seen it in swimming and things like that with the college swimmers and weightlifting and these other things where, biological or originally born, however the phrasing is supposed to be now, men are competing in obviously dominating against females in these situations. Now, I will say, I don't know that having been born a man originally gives you any sort of leg up on the ability to win Miss Universe. So I feel like that's at least the most level playing field that you can have. Like, if you're a woman in the Miss Universe pageant and you lost to the transgender person in the Miss Universe pageant, I mean, I get that it's a bummer that you lost, but you can't be because they're transgender. It's not like, oh man, of course they had an unfair advantage. Like, there's really no, like, they dressed up in a bathing suit like you did. They put on a ball gown. They answered questions. They did all the stuff. It's pretty level playing field, I guess, in the grand scheme of things.
I think it'd probably be the most fair, and probably put the transgender person at the most disadvantaged, because they're not, biologically female,
Right.
so they haven't been a woman long enough to, But what was the talent? I mean, I don't know. Like, whether this is singing or dancing, and
it's a good question. I don't have that information. Don't know that.
Gosh.
I will say though, it's perhaps a good thing that I did not have a vote in the Miss Netherlands pageant, because I do not believe that Ricky Valerie Cole, from the pictures I've seen, would have garnered my vote. And that has nothing to do with being transgender, other than the appearance of the person and me judging for Miss Universe. I do not believe, I haven't been all over the universe, but in my little corner of the universe, I don't believe this is the person that would have gotten my vote. But
no.
Congratulations to Miss Netherlands, Ricky Valerie Cole.
Congratulations.
Yeah. We'll move on. Quick hits. I don't know if this is really a quick hits story or not, because I don't know that we're going to have enough time to do it justice. But we can at least touch on it very briefly, as it is in the news. Actor Jonah Hill has been accused of emotional abuse by his ex-girlfriend, who was a professional surfer named Sarah Brady. She claims that Hill prohibited her from sharing bathing suit photos or even surfing with men. And she has now come out and publicly shown screenshots of text messages between the two of them, where he very clearly lays out his expectations and what he is and is not okay with in a relationship with her. So yeah, thought it was interesting. You had actually, I had seen something about this. You sent this to me as well. So I don't know what your thoughts were on this.
Yeah, I mean, so here's what now there's more text, and this text was December 2nd of 2021. So this was quite a while ago, and I believe now has a child with another
He
woman,
recently had a
right?
child with his current girlfriend. So yes, I mean, this is by all accounts a past relationship.
Yeah, and it pretty much seems like it came out almost simultaneously with the news of the baby, based on what I could see. Again, I don't really get into this stuff very much, but you read that and you say, geez, man, what'd he do? And then you read what he texted, and you're kind of like, I feel like that's reasonable, but am I misogynistic? Like, I don't know. Am I a misogynist? Like, okay, so let me read this. So this apparently, we'll assume it says Jonah. There's a picture of him, little Apple picture that you can set. So we'll presume it's him, but he says plain and simple, if you need, and then there's some bullet points: surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friendships with men, to model. I guess these are all her things. To post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, to post sexual pictures, friendships with women who are in unstable places, and from your wild recent past beyond getting a lunch or coffee or something respectful. I am not the right partner for you. If these things bring you to a place of happiness, I support it, and there'll be no hard feelings. These are my boundaries for a romantic partnership. My boundaries with you based on the way these actions have hurt our trust. It's a pretty nice, kind of laid
Yeah, I
out
mean,
thing. So I'm, of course, and I'm reading, and I see people commenting like, yeah, if you agree with this, then you're the problem, you're the issue. But I, yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know her past enough to know like
right. What's he
clearly
referring to?
clearly he was concerned about her hanging out with her people from her wild past. So apparently there had to be a past there,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, I don't know that I want my my girlfriend hanging out with men and posting. I never understand the whole like posting of like these sexual pictures online. Clearly there's no other reason to post them besides to get attention. And if you already have someone, like, why are you posting those? I mean, and that goes for men too. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's
Sure.
not just women. Men are posting the pictures with their shirts off and their abs and everything, but clearly you're doing this just to try and get attention. And
Yeah.
like, I don't know what relationship, deep down really would want that. Now, I've seen some other stuff though that's kind of like, where she's asking like, well, what about this one? And literally, it's like a picture of her in the ocean in a bathing suit. It's kind of like she's on a surfboard. Well, is this appropriate? Is this okay?
Yeah.
So maybe it just went to an extreme, but
I think it gets a little weird when you chose to date a professional surfer. So
yeah, she's going to be in a bathing suit quite a good bit. And,
it's like and pictures are going to be taken of her in a bathing suit. She's going to be surfing with men. Like that's, I think, the hard part is because what you're essentially saying, if you came to a professional in any area, right, in any walk of life, and you said, listen, if you are doing your profession with any members of the opposite sex, anything that I consider inappropriate friendship, if you want to, because I mean, she is a model, I guess, and he's saying if you want to model, well, it's a way she earns income. To post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, to post, I don't know what sexual pictures would be considered, so that one I can't really hit on. It just says to post sexual pictures. To have friendships with women who are in unstable places and from your wild recent past. Again, I think the tricky part is he's the one making those judgments. And I think that's maybe where people get bothered, is like, okay, well, wait a minute. She was already doing this job, and it was okay when you wanted to be with her in the first place. Like, you got with her having that job. She didn't become a professional surfer after you got together. She didn't start modeling after you got together. So you're essentially then trying to take away her identity that she had way before you ever came along, or I'm going to break up with you. And it seems like some of these things I would totally understand. Others do seem a little like, well, I don't know how you could say you shouldn't get pictures taken in a bathing suit when you're a professional surfer. It'd be very hard to avoid that. I don't know how she could have taken action to avoid that, short of giving up.
Sarong.
Yeah, or just give up surfing. Yeah, just like wear a full wetsuit or something, or give up surfing. So there's some things there. I mean, people always take things too far, because now they're saying, well, he was using therapist speak against her, and these types of things. Which, again, far be it from me to understand all the intricacies of this stuff. I do think that he was, relatively reasonable in the way that he approached it. He certainly was not approaching it from a mean or emotional way, which I do think would be, this is the preferred way. He's being very clear. Why this needed to be said in a text message versus a just sit down conversation with the person that you're in a relationship with, I don't know, but
that's it. So there had to be something else there. I mean, this isn't like this is a conversation that's happened many times before. This isn't just an all of a sudden, hey, if you're going to, so there's way more there. And it's just kind of like, why are you putting this stuff out here? Like, I just, you're in a relationship. Like, is anything not sacred? It just seems like you break up and the first thing you want to do is just dish on everyone else. Like, can't it just be like, it didn't work out? It didn't
Yeah.
sound like he was like physically abusive. I don't know. Maybe he was emotionally abusive. I don't even know
Yeah.
what that is anymore. It seems like, everything now is, some sort of mental abuse on someone, some way. Everybody is triggered by everything.
Well, and you're only
Maybe
getting
there's
one
something
person's side of the story,
Well,
too.
of course, because he's not the one leaking this. And far as I
Right.
know, he hasn't even responded to any of this,
Right.
except for I think he put something in his clothing line recently. I saw.
Yes. Yes. I saw this
that
too. Yeah.
alluded to that, which has already already been sold out. So,
Right.
so maybe that's his answer to it,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, again, there she is putting this out for no other reason. This guy's just had a baby, and now you've put this out here. Like, for what purpose? Like, what does this serve? Besides, like, you're just trying to now hurt the guy. Now you look petty. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people taking her side, but in my opinion, you just look petty. Like, why wasn't this out before, right after you guys got, separated or you guys broke up?
It's weird. All of this stuff is weird nowadays because there is no longer not only just an assumption of privacy, not even a reasonable expectation of privacy. That doesn't matter if it's in your relationship, if it's and look, the reality is that's how people are choosing to live their lives, right? So like you can't also complain when you're victimized by it because you're choosing to live in the same way. If you want to be the type of person who posts everything about your life, everything you do, every good meal you have, every place you travel, every hotel you stay in, wherever you are at all times, then okay, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? Some stuff's going to get out there. But there's no longer this it used to be that like if stuff came out, people were like, oh, I don't want to hear about that. That's somebody's private relationship. Now it's very different. Now it's all people want to hear about. They love that idea of being able to learn about your private relationship and you're only ever hearing one side of it. And so that ability to only hear one side negates everything as far as credibility. And I'm not taking anything away from her and her version of events and things like that. She has the text messages. No doubt there's a lot more to it. But I'm sure, as in any scenario, that there is also another side. And he could be still completely wrong, right? We don't know that. He could be completely wrong. Or it could balance out to where maybe they both have some wrong and they both have some right, which is normally how it is. We're both married. That's normally how it works out. Sure. Usually it's not one person just completely wrong, a horrible, misogynistic, garbage person, and the other person did everything right and is just an innocent victim of this. Normally everyone shares. But the problem is, it's the person who's sharing that is going to be the person then that's always going to look good. No one's going to come forth and say, hey, listen, no one has mentioned this, but I was terrible to this person a few years back. Sure. And here's what I did. And check it out. I got all the text messages. You can read them. I'll put them up. Nobody ever does that stuff. So instead, you wait till you get outed by somebody and then kind of go from there.
That's exactly it. So, it's just weird. Like, why anyone even cares. I mean, we're talking about it obviously because it's in the news and it's made a big stink, but like, it's Jonah Hill. I mean, come on. Like, funny, like the dude, I mean, Superbad is probably my all-time favorite Jonah Hill movie that he's in, there's been some other good ones, but I mean, fine actor, like nobody that I don't really care what his personal life is. And it's just weird that you put that out there and I don't, it was just unprovoked. Like the dude announces he's having a baby and then now you're putting stuff out here about past relationships. Like, why?
She said that she intentionally waited until they had the baby, like after the baby, because she didn't want to cause any stress during the pregnancy. So they had the baby, like, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. And then now she's putting this stuff out. So she was looking at it like, I was doing him a favor. I was waiting to put this stuff out until it was a better time.
But
you could also just not put it out.
Like, how long?
You could also just not put it out.
So did he break up with you then immediately get with this woman and get her pregnant? Like, maybe that's it? She's just scorned? Again, nothing that I'm going to look into. I'm sure I could probably find the answers to it if I really wanted to. I don't really want to. I just, just keep the stuff to yourself, man. It just if he was abusive, like, physically, beating her and things like that, go to the police. Again, I don't know that this is anything that just has to get out. Everybody has to release everything. Man, I'm telling you, it's coming down to the point where people are going to start signing contracts before they even get into relationships.
Yes.
We talked about this several months ago. We talked about this. I can't remember what the situation was, but I think I brought something up to that effect of like, people are going to start signing essentially prenups. I think it was, the fighter that his girlfriend was
Israel Adesanya.
Adesanya.
Yes.
And we said if that really passes, if she really gets money, they're going to be signing, and I still think it's going to be. I mean, was it Derek Jeter had a rumored?
Yes. I mean, even on the Chappelle show, they had the love contract. Like that's it. Like you had to sign off before you're going to get with anybody because it was like, it has to be an NDA and everything else. I mean, celebrities have been using non-disclosures forever to prevent word from getting out. So yeah, crazy. All right, so we should probably get ready to wrap this sucker up. I got one more little thing that we'll end with. Did you have anything else before I wrap into this? Okay.
No, that's good.
This is short and sweet, but we talked a little bit in this episode about sports in general, and the power of sports to bring people together and change lives, and what it's done for all of these amazing players. We talked about Ellie De La Cruz and Shohei Ohtani and these folks that have come from all over the world to play professional sports and what it's done for them. So in a similar vein, in December of 2019, 2 rival drug cartels who were being held at Cieneguilla Men's Penitentiary decided to have a friendly soccer match. The friendly soccer match ended with 16 deaths and 5 injuries.
Oh my God. I shouldn't even laugh at that, but holy crap. Well,
Power of sports. That's the power of sports. Yeah.
Oh, what was that? E60? ESPN? The power of sports.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to do a 30 for 30 on this.
Oh my God.
What if I told you 2 rival gangs
It was like
put down the guns and get out the soccer ball?
Was that the Blood and the Crips holding the handkerchiefs up together?
That's right.
I mean, oh my gosh. So, and 16.
Yeah, 16 deaths.
Who's putting
16
this on?
deaths
Who's
and 5
allowing
injuries.
this?
I know exactly.
The warden thought this was a
happening in
great
the prison.
idea.
I mean, hey, I guess he was just like, hey, man, worst case scenario, it gets people off the streets, I suppose. Like, they're all bad people. If worst case scenario, they kill each other, that's easier for us. Maybe they have overcrowding in those prisons. Yeah, pretty amazing. So, yeah, I just saw that. Again, it's short and sweet. A lot of times when we go into these things and they close out the show with interesting trivia or funny things or whatever, normally a little bit longer. This is nice and short and sweet.
You don't, that friendly match ended at 16 deaths. Gee, Christmas. How long that match went before the first death happened?
Yeah. And how much longer it was before the other 15 happened. And they were just like, well, drag him off, bring someone else in, let's keep playing. The game has to keep continue.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is too rich. Goodness gracious. That's awful.
Yeah.
Not
So
fun.
next time, if you live in a rough neighborhood and you hear about like at a local park or anything like that, and 2 gangs are thinking about getting together to play a soccer match, do not support this.
Mm-hmm. Don't go.
Do not go to observe this.
Don't go.
Try to prevent it from happening. And if you cannot prevent it from happening, leave town. Protect yourself and your loved ones. Please. Please. Soccer will kill you. I've been saying this for a long time.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And I mean, and look who's playing it. Drug dealers.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your kids away from soccer, people.
That's
Keep
it.
them away from soccer. Protect yourselves.
That's it. This is our hill. We will die on this hill.
That's right. That's
Soccer will kill you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Save yourself. Protect yourself. Take care for those kids. Hold them tight. Hold your little ones tight. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much everything we got. I don't have anything. But you know what? Actually, I got one more. I wasn't even going to do this. I'm going to do this really quick because it's also another really fast one. And I saw this, and we've been talking a little bit of baseball tonight. So for anyone who's stuck with us this long, listening to some baseball stuff, I got a baseball stat for you. Remember Don Mattingly, great Hall of Fame player. Don Mattingly played for the Yankees, played for some other teams, but Don Mattingly probably known as a Yankee. Don Mattingly played from 1982 to 1995. Don Mattingly set a single season Major League Baseball record in 1987 with 6 grand slams in one season. Don Mattingly never hit another grand slam in any season of his entire career before or after. He had his seasons went 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 6 Major League Baseball single season record 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
That is amazing.
Like, what are the chances? Why would that happen?
Yeah,
and in the middle of your career, you suddenly go off. You had 6 grand slams, you had a Major League Baseball record, and you never had hit a grand slam before, and you never hit one after.
So you just set the record, and you'd be like, "I'm good."
Yeah, I don't even want to hit another grand slam. Yeah. If you put me up there with those bases loaded, I'll bunt. I am not interested. But yeah, I saw that. I thought it was such a weird stat, like just such a strange thing that you could have never, ever hit a grand slam in your career. And then at the halfway point of your career, you set the single season Major League Baseball record for grand slams in a season. And then you never, your entire rest of your career, which is actually longer than the first half of your career, never, ever hit another one.
That is insane. What a weird anomaly. Like, that's just, yeah. I mean, just to hit 6 in one year, just to have all of that set up. Like, I'm sure he wasn't 6 for 6 in grand slams that year. So, like, he might have had 10 or 15 opportunities to be able to get up there. And, oh my gosh, that's wild. And then never again. Yeah.
Never again. Never again.
Jeez.
All of his grand slams in his entire career happened in one season. And that was it.
Just get him out of the way.
Got it out of his system. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Don't have to deal with these anymore.
Yeah, thank goodness.
I set the record and I got out.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty unbelievable.
That's it. Just like Costanza. Tell that one joke.
Thank you. I'm out of here.
I'm out.
Have a good night, everyone.
I'm out.
Leave it on a high note. All right. Well, with that having been said, I think now we can officially wrap it up and give people a few minutes of their time back. We're normally right at about 2 hours or so, and we're just slightly shy. So, global audience, you get about 2 minutes of your lives back. Thanks to us. So don't say we never gave you anything. We gave you 2 minutes of life.
Don't waste it.
No other show is going to give you any amount of life. We've given you 2 minutes of it. Yes. Do well with it. In fact, also, don't be afraid to go out. Check your ATMs. See if you find a glitch. If you do, don't report yourself because they can't catch you. So you're safe. Just don't tell them you heard it from us.
Yeah. We had nothing to do with it.
That's right. All right, everybody. That's it for us. We appreciate you listening as always. And we will talk with you soon. Have a good day, everybody.
Good night.